on their way.
I'll send an email to everyone else so that all the other boards and commissions can be
We got 4, so we're just gonna go ahead and get started. Yeah, we got 4, so.
Start the meeting.
Yeah.
When they show up, they can just mark us and
I forget that, yeah, it's not here, so.
Yeah, I got one too.
Yes, Tuesday.
All right, y'all ready? All right. Call to order the meeting of the Eastpointe Planning Commission for Thursday, January 6, 2022 at 7:07 p.m. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Lalonde?
Present.
Mr. DeHunt?
Here.
Ms. Julinski here. Mr. Broll? Ms. Naylor? Ms. Ford? Chairman Palazzolo?
Here. Is a commissioner prepared to make a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting with the modification of moving all items under Section 5 unfinished business after the items in Section 7 new business and the addition of an item F for the election of officers under Section 7 new business?
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any comments, questions, concerns, other proposed changes?
I do have one concern about the item in parentheses next to first hearing of the public. It's stating non-agenda items. To my knowledge, people can say whatever they want in their 3 minutes, so long as they're polite. If that's an attempt to make sure that people are commenting about items during the public hearing, maybe it needs to be clarified because there's a little ambiguity there, and maybe it needs to state non-public hearing items, something. There just needs to be a little bit more clarity so people don't feel like they're being told what they can and not say.
Duly noted. We have a motion by Vice Chair DeHunt, second by Commissioner Lalonde. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. DeHunt?
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Chairman Palazzolo?
Yes. We move on to the first hearing of the public. If you would like to comment on the conditional rezoning for the property located at 16410 Stevens, we kindly ask that you wait until the public hearing for that item. That's item 6 on the agenda for tonight. If you would like to comment on any other topic, please identify yourself, request to be heard, and wait to be called. When you are called, you will have 3 minutes to speak. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Mr. Chairman Lubeck.
Thank you and good evening. You also have the same notation after the second hearing of the public, that it's about non-agenda items, but it seems that both public hearings, you would want people to speak on agenda items as opposed to just speaking randomly about everything else. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard? Yes, sir. Please. Please state your name, write it down for the record, and you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir. My name is Stanley Christmas. I'm here to speak on behalf of myself and my property. I own 2 properties on Topher and Raven. I have a privacy fence up there now. At the last meeting, and I was very pleased that you brought that up for agenda and let some of the neighbors speak on our behalfs about some of the hardships that we have with not being able to have a privacy fence on corner lots. And you said that you were going to bring a couple of motions up. One that's going to state whether or not you will approve one on the property line, and one that you have no restrictions at all. And I'm hoping that this august panel would do the one, the one without the restrictions. I've been through the community, and I noticed that there are quite a few fences now on corner lots, and their fences are back off the privacy line. And one of the reasons I would like to have it non-restricted is because I don't want my homes to look like prisons. I want to be able to put shrubbery and flowers and other things on that corner. I live right next to a school called Kepso Elementary School. I've been there for about 15, almost 20 years now. I've been in Eastpointe. I own 2 houses on Topher. And that corner lot is a hardship by having a school there. I get a lot of pedestrian traffic, and I get a lot of vehicle traffic, and I've been enduring that for years and years. And a lot of stuff goes on those corner lots. And so that's the reason why I fought so hard to try to get a privacy fence up on that corner. And another, just to beautify it as well, because the corner was really run down. But in summary, I'd just like to say I hope that this panel would approve the non-restricted fence being put up, not necessarily right on the property line, but let the neighbors decide if, where they want to put their fences. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak to you today.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Seeing none, we'll close the first hearing of the public and move on to the approval of minutes. Is a commissioner prepared to make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting dated December 2nd, 2021?
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes of the December 2nd, 2021 meeting.
Do we have a second?
Support.
We have motion and support. Are there any comments, questions, concerns, edits?
I have some concerns because we do not have a record of the actual meeting. We have a technical breakdown that was done off of the agenda and the motions. No commissioner comments were saved. No resident comments were saved. And I have a hard time approving this. Now, I'm not saying that the public hearing we voted for, we approved it. I'm certainly not questioning that. I do not like the fact that none of our concerns were saved in any format. So I will vote to approve these minutes, but as it stands for me, these are not complete minutes. These do not reflect everything of the meeting. It might reflect technical aspects, but it does not reflect the whole thing.
An excellent point. To that point, Mr. Albright?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the minutes do not have to be approved this evening. The Planning Commission could wait to approve them at the next meeting and give, if there are comments that the individual members believe are not accurately reflected or omitted altogether in the minutes, the individual members could provide what they believe were their comments and have them added to proposed minutes for consideration at the February meeting. And at that time, the Planning Commission could vote to approve the minutes as reflected in the proposed minutes, which would incorporate the individual comments.
I personally would feel more comfortable with that. I understand it's going to be difficult for people to try and recollect what they said because we don't script our comments. But nobody scripts a comment from a public hearing. But I do think an attempt needs to be made to put a little bit more of the spirit back into the minutes versus a technical breakdown.
And to this point, my understanding is that there was no actual recording of the meeting, and that was in part what made a transcription or a further recording of the minutes more difficult.
Mr. Chairman, that's my understanding.
Yeah, okay. So, on that point, is this meeting being recorded? Do we have, yes, we are good. We're live, we're good? Okay. All right. If not, we have somebody else taking minutes? Is that correct? Maybe? Okay. We'll figure it out. Any other commissioners have any
Yeah, do you need a motion to table this, or do you want me to withdraw my motion?
That's a great point. I think in light of the questions that are raised by Commissioner DeHaan, or Vice Chair DeHaan, if you would like to rescind your motion and make a different motion, you can do that.
Okay, I'll rescind my motion and make a motion that we table this item till the February meeting.
Second.
We have motion by Commissioner Lalonde and support by Vice Chair DeHaan. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Mr. DeHaan?
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Chairman Palazzolo?
Yes. And also let the record show that Mr. Broll is now here. Okay. We move on to the public hearing for the conditional rezoning of the property located at 16410 Stevens. If you would like to comment on the proposed map amendment to the Eastpointe zoning ordinance, please request to be heard, wait to be called, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing for the conditional rezoning. We will move on to new business, item A. Unfortunately, we are without our city planner for this evening, so I will review the memo that she has provided, or that the city planner has provided, dated December 27th, 2021. Have all the commissioners seen this memo? Yes? Yes. Okay. Dear Commissioner members, we have reviewed the above application to conditionally rezone the southern portion of the property located at 16410 Stevens Road in order to construct a self-storage facility. Site plan approval for this facility was granted by the Planning Commission on December 2nd, 2021, contingent that the portion of the parcel that is zoned P1, Vehicular Parking District, noted as Phase 2 on the site plan, could not be constructed unless a rezoning to the I-1 Light Industrial District was approved. This review reflects the site plan approved with conditions by the Planning Commission on December 2nd, 2021. Background information presents existing and future conditions, including location, existing land use, current zoning district, and future land use. Use and zoning compatibility. The subject site is split zoned. The northern portion is zoned I-1 Light Industrial District, where per section 50-100C3 warehouse storage is considered a permitted land use. The southern portion of the site is zoned P1 Vehicular Parking District, where a self-storage facility is neither permitted nor a special land use. Without a rezoning of the P1 to the I-1 district, approval of the self-storage facility only applies to the northern portion of the site. Conditions offered. Per the applicant's request, offer for conditional rezoning agreement dated December 7th, 2021. The following conditions are offered voluntarily by the applicant. These conditions are tied to the approval and should a proposed conditional rezoning be granted. 1, the property would be rezoned and restricted to a zoning designation of I-1 Light Industrial District only. 2, the use of the property within the I-1 district zoning designation will be restricted to warehouse and storage uses, office buildings offering administrative, clerical, or general service as an accessory use to warehouse or storage uses, with accessory buildings and uses customarily incidental to warehouse and storage uses. 3, the building to be constructed on the property would be completed pursuant to the site plan approved by the Planning Commission dated December 2nd, 2021. 4, the site plan for the building to be constructed on the property will be attached to the conditional rezoning agreement provided for in section 50-27 to be mutually agreed upon by the parties. And there shall be no outdoor storage. And 5, there shall be no outdoor storage of the property. 6, the conditional rezoning agreement will include a provision that once the agreement is approved and signed, Stevens will not need to return to the City Council for approval for minor modifications or alterations as detailed in section 50-45-2A in the approved site plan and the building plans required in order to comply with the building department or planning department requirements, and such requests will be handled administratively. Planner's recommendation. Pending any comments from the public during the public hearing, we recommend the Planning Commission consider the following motion. To recommend approval of the conditional rezoning from P1 Vehicular Parking District to the I-1 Light Industrial District for the southern portion of 16410 Stevens Road, parcel ID 02-30-426-006 to City Council based on findings of fact. I'll get to the findings of fact later. The conditional rezoning review provided by the planning consultant identifies 8 rezoning review considerations. The first is that will the proposed amendment be in accordance with the basic intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance? The basic intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance is to provide regulations and restrictions on the uses of land and structures to promote and protect the public health, safety, and general welfare of the Eastpointe community. The regulations contained within the ordinance are designed to protect and conserve the character, social, and economic stability of residential, commercial, industrial, and other use areas, to secure the most appropriate location and relationship among uses and structures, to limit the overcrowding of land and population congestion, to provide adequate light, air, and reasonable access, to facilitate adequate and economical provision of energy, transportation, water, sanitary, sewer, education, recreation, and public services and facilities. A conditional rezoning of the subject site to the I-1 Light Industrial District can be in accordance with the above stated intents, especially since the applicant has voluntarily offered to limit the range of permitted uses on the site. Per the applicant's request offer for conditional rezoning agreement, the conditional rezoning would permit only 3 uses by right that are permitted within the I-1 Light Industrial District. This restriction severely limits the potential for future redevelopment of the site that would be more intensive, such as a manufacturing facility. Permitted uses under the conditional rezoning are highlighted in orange in the table that accompanies the memo. The second condition is have conditions changed since the zoning ordinance was adopted that justify the amendment. Documentation regarding the environmental contamination of the site that has since been provided to the city. This contamination limits the type of uses for the subject site without significant remediation. Third standard is will the proposed amendment further the comprehensive planning goals and policies of the city, and is the proposed amendment consistent with the future land use map of the master plan? If not, is the current plan current and reasonable, or does it need to be updated? The subject site is currently designated as a multifamily residential on the future land use map. Proposed conditional rezoning is not aligned with this vision. However, since the 2040 master plan was adopted, information documenting the contamination of the subject site has been provided to the city. Environmental remediation would be necessary in order to redevelop this site for any residential use. Within the 2040 master plan, there are 2 redevelopment policies that would be furthered by the redevelopment of the site into a self-storage facility. It would foster redevelopment of existing commercial or industrial area, eliminating the functional obsolescence of the current site. And 2, it would increase the city's non-residential tax base by enabling and facilitating the expansion of non-residential uses. 4, will the amendment correct an inequitable situation created by the zoning ordinance rather than merely grant special privileges? No. The proposed conditional rezoning would not grant special privileges. The proposed conditions offered by the applicant significantly limit the allowable uses of the subject site. 5, will the amendment result in an unlawful exclusionary zoning? We are not aware of any exclusionary zoning issues associated with this request. 6, will the amendment set an inappropriate precedent resulting in the need to correct future planning mistakes? The requested rezoning will not set an inappropriate precedent, provided that the Planning Commission initiate an amendment to the 2040 master plan to address this identified change and to better align with the zoning map and future land use map. 7, is the proposed zoning consistent with the zoning classification of the surrounding land? Rezoning the subject site to I-1 Light Industrial, subject to the conditions set forth in the applicant's offer letter, could be consistent with the adjacent residential and civic uses. The approved site plan for the subject site complies with and exceeds the screening and buffering requirements for commercial and industrial land uses that are adjacent to residential. Finally, 8, could all requirements in the proposed zoning classification be complied with on the subject parcel? The subject site meets the dimensional standards of the I-1 Light Industrial classification. There are 2 additional conditional rezoning considerations identified by the city planner. 1, will the approval of the application accomplish the integration of the proposed land development project with the characteristics of the project area and result in an enhancement of the project area as compared to the requested zoning change? And would such enhancement be unlikely to be achieved in the absence of the use of a conditional rezoning? The proposed project could not be achieved without under the existing P1 vehicular parking zoning district, as storage facilities are not a permitted use either by right or by special land use. The proposed project would achieve the integration and enhancement of both project area and surrounding sites in at least 2 ways. A, the entire project site would function as a productive use and no longer remain a vacant lot. And B, the proposed improvements to the screening and landscaping of the site's perimeter would enhance the surrounding streetscape, making it more attractive to residents and the larger community. Second additional consideration, have sufficient conditions been included that as compared to the existing zoning and considering the site-specific land use proposed by the applicant, it would be in the public interest to grant the rezoning with rezoning conditions, provided in determining whether approval of a proposed application would be in the public interest, the benefits of which would reasonably be expected to accrue to the proposal shall be balanced against and be found to clearly outweigh the reasonably foreseeable detriments thereof, taking into consideration reasonably accepted planning, engineering, environmental, and other principles. Planner's report concludes, we find that the improvements to screening and landscaping as provided in the approved site plan, along with the use limitations set forth in the applicant's offer letter, would ensure that the proposed project would be in the public interest and would provide external public benefits in the form of streetscape improvements and beautification. My apologies, I'm sure Ms. Hall would have said it much better.
She can never not be here again.
That's right. I did that on purpose, just so that you all would make sure that she shows up. Please let the record note, we've been joined by both Commissioner Fort and Commissioner Naylor. Do any commissioners have any questions regarding the planner's report?
I have a shout out I need to give to Ms. Holman because this project has just grated on my nerves knowing that there's pollution under that concrete. So Ms. Holman has been kind enough to do her due diligence and find out that there is nothing we can do. To the people that created it, to the people that have owned it and allowed it to sit there. And I recognize that sometimes we have to do things that we don't like, and I don't particularly like to have another storage facility, but it is what it is. So I want to thank Ms. Holman for doing that for me. My father has been an environmental manager for the government for many years, and anytime I hear the word pollution, I tend to get a little concerned. So I want to thank her for that.
Any other commissioner questions, comments, or concerns related to the planner's report? Representative from the applicant here, who would like to say anything? Please come forward, state your name, and write it on the record, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Gary Garretts. I'm the General Manager of MySpace Self-Storage, which is Stevens Road Storage Centers, LLC. First and foremost, I just want to thank you for the approval of the site plan at your meeting on December the 2nd. We very much look forward to expanding our business here in Eastpointe. Your prior action allows us to move forward with the second phase of our city process. We are now requesting conditional rezoning of the southern part of the property, which is currently zoned for P1 parking. The conditional rezoning is for an industrial classification, which will be consistent with the zoning of the northern half of the property. The conditional rezoning offer we have made to the city, while still industrial, limits the use of the property to warehouse and storage and accessory uses. The conditional rezoning will not allow any traditional industrial uses such as manufacturing or materials processing. The conditional rezoning will permanently protect the surrounding neighborhoods from odors, truck traffic, and noise that arise from industrial uses. Lastly, we respectfully request that you recommend approval of the conditional rezoning for the southern portion of the property to allow us to proceed to City Council. We thank you for your thoughtful consideration.
Thank you, sir. Do any other planning commissioners have any questions for the applicant?
I have a question about the original project, and this was one of the reasons why I was concerned about the minutes. So we have been told at the last meeting that the final phase of the initial project was stymied because of material costs, and that this facility is more cost-effective. I want the second part of the original phase done. So do we have any sort of, does your company have any sort of timeline? Because first off, the land back there is just barren with dirt, and it's not very pleasing to the eye to anybody that lives around there. Is there a targeted date when that might be completed or started or something?
Yeah, I'm Todd Clark, I'm the owner.
Okay,
We're actually working with a new financial institution that's going to help us refinance the property that we currently are in,
okay,
help us do, and are helping us with the new project.
Okay.
And are also putting together the monies for phase 3 for that additional piece.
so if the moons align and everything, when are you looking at potentially starting that?
We would, hopefully by fall time,
Okay,
we would be back in here to I don't know if there's anything that we would have to do technically or whatever. I know we have our approvals and stuff like that, and I know that there's timeframes, but we were looking for an update on that,
Okay,
and then start to move forward.
perfect.
So we've been working, so the financing piece with everything that happened with COVID is very tricky, right? The banks, everybody got scared, and so they pulled in, they were doing a lot of PPP things to keep businesses going, and that was their focus. And so it's only been recent, maybe within the last 6 months, that we've been able to move forward with financing activities that the banks seem to feel a little more comfortable about moving forward with what's going on with the economy.
Okay,
And so it slowed us down on not just that project, but on a couple others. And so now we're back in, that's all we're doing is spending full time, Gary and I, on banking mostly and financing of the projects.
so in a perfect world, we're gonna see, potentially, we'll see some development by fall.
Starting the process, yeah,
Okay,
we'll probably be back
perfect.
in here. Because, you know, for me, I've already done all the underground work at that particular site. And that's the hardest part, is from a construction standpoint, getting all the piping and everything hooked up to the city services. And if there's gonna be any problems or anything that you don't see, it's under the ground, right? So so that site and that back half is all done.
Okay.
Right? And so basically, we just have to come in and put in footings and then the steel to go up, right? And so, I actually sent Gary a couple, I'm always looking at the steel prices, steel price news and all that type of thing. So steel prices are starting to trend down a little bit. They came down in December, they came down in January. I'm hoping that they continue to come back. Steel's kind of like how lumber, 2x4 used to be $3 and it went to 12, now it's back to 6, something like that, right? So I don't think we'll ever see lumber back at $2. Same thing kind of with steel, right? I think it's always gonna be higher than what it was, but I think it's gonna fall to maybe
To where it makes sense.
to where it makes sense to move forward with the project. So I'm looking at the news every single day, you know, because it's significant. It makes, so, yeah.
Thank you, that makes me feel better.
But I've got a follow-up on that, if you don't mind. So the way I interpreted it last time we had the meeting a month ago was that the cost benefit wasn't there.
Sure.
And I'm kind of hearing you say now that it was a combination of banking and the cost benefit. Now the cost benefit's coming the right way. It's not there yet. Is that correct? And the banking is there now?
It's a different kind of steel.
Right.
So the steel, it's structural steel, so, so those prices are still high. So I'm hoping that they're gonna come into alignment and then it's gonna make sense financially. So everything I do, you know, it's a family business, it's me and my, you know, so when we're looking at these projects, it has to make sense financially, right?
Absolutely.
And so, I'm hoping that everything aligns, right? I think, you know, I'm working with the banks to, on an overall project, right, not just for the pieces. And so when the pieces, so we'll be getting, appraisals and all that type of thing. And so hopefully that will all align and we can move forward in the fall.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments, questions, concerns? Is a commissioner prepared to recommend approval of the conditional rezoning from the P1 Vehicular Parking District to the I1 Light Industrial District of the southern portion of 16410 Stevens Road to City Council based on the following findings of fact? One, that the voluntary conditions set forth by the applicant in their December 7th, 2021 offer letter are sufficient in ensuring that the proposed project would be in the public interest, as the restriction on the type of allowable uses in the I1 district severely limits the potential for future redevelopment of the site that would negatively impact the adjacent residential and public properties. Two, the proposed rezoning supports the stated redevelopment goals of the 2040 master plan, namely A, fosters redevelopment of an existing commercial industrial area and eliminating functional obsolescence, and B, increases the city's non-residential tax base by enabling and facilitating the expansion of non-residential uses. Three, the approved site plan for the self-storage facility and the productive redevelopment of this site could not be realized but for the rezoning of the subject parcel from P1 to I1. Four, the zoning requirements of the I1 district can be met on the subject site, no nonconformity would be created. And five, the approved site plan for the subject site provides external public benefits in the form of streetscape improvements and beautification.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have support?
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Vice Chair DeHaan, support by Commissioner Broll. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. DeHunt,
Yes.
Mr. Broll,
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde,
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Ms. Naylor,
Yes.
Ms. Ford,
Yes.
Chairman Palazzolo.
Yes. All right, we move on to new business, item B. Mr. Kern.
Thank you.
Mr. Kern, please introduce yourself and please present the draft capital improvements.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Ryan Kern with Anderson, Eckstein, and Westrick, city's engineering consultant. Administration asked me to come tonight and present to you the draft, what I would call the infrastructure capital improvement program. This is something that we update for the city at this time every year as part of the budget preparation. And we always look at least 6 years out on this. So and it's been presented in your packet as well, what the draft is for this year, looking out to the 2027-28 year. We'll start out with the street funds. The street funding is separated into major and local funding, and that funding comes from the state government through the Act 51 program. The city's been very successful in getting federal aid assistance for a majority of the major street projects in the last few years. And again, this year, the city has gotten federal aid assistance. 81.85% of the construction cost is being funded for the reconstruction of 9 Mile from the western city limits to Gratiot. And that's going to continue further east next year to David Street, and then we're hopeful that we'll get federal aid assistance to do the third phase from David to Kelly. Recently, the Federal Aid Committee through Macomb County asked for future projects for years 2024, 25, and 26 to be included in the Transportation Improvement Program for potential federal aid assistance, and we did submit additional projects, those being 9 Mile, 9 Mile from, it's actually from Tuscany to the east city limits, and then also Topher from Kelly to Beaconsfield, 9 Mile from Kelly to I-94, and then concrete patching on Hayes from Stevens to 10 Mile Road. We'll probably, within the next few months, know if we do get any federal aid money for those projects. These projects are not set in stone that are on this capital improvement plan. We do update this annually, so things might change as we go along. Also included in the major streets, we've also added in preventative maintenance projects that we typically do on an annual basis, a joint sealing program, focusing on both local and major streets. We've started that back up again here this past year, and that will continue next year as well. And then a pavement marking program, which the city hasn't done for the last couple of years, but something that we want to look into starting that back up again. The city's also received grant money through the state for traffic signal modernizations, and several of the traffic signals along 9 Mile and 10 Mile are going to be modernized this coming year. The city's also gotten safety grant money to fund 100% of the construction cost for signal improvements on Kelly Road at Topher, Stevens, and 9 Mile that will take place next year for construction. On the local streets, the city has done an annual street pavement patching program. We started in the southwest corner of the city and kind of zigzagging our way through. So we started between 8 Mile and Topher, working east. Now we're in the process of working between Topher and 9 Mile, heading west, and try to get as much done as we can with the allowable budget. The city's divided into 13 districts for that street repair program, and we just finished District 5, so we'll continue going with that every year. With the joint sealing program, we started in the northwest corner and working our way the opposite way. As part of that concrete patch repair program, we do joint seal those streets that we've worked on. Those streets are mostly the fair rated streets. We do go and rate the streets every few years, 1 through 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. So we can identify which streets need priority. Are rated fair 4 to 6 roughly. That's just to extend the life of the pavement on those streets. We did do an asphalt resurfacing program last year that addressed 5 streets where we did a milling and resurfacing of those streets to extend the useful life for about 10 to 15 years or so. per council's direction, we are not doing any asphalt resurfacing at this time. There's not a lot of funds in the local road fund. The Act 51 funding not only covers infrastructure projects, but it also accounts for any maintenance, payroll costs. It covers everything involved with streets, street sweeping and everything. So by the time you get through all the maintenance and payroll costs, there's not a whole lot left over there for infrastructure work. So there's not a whole lot to work with there. So that's why we're not seeing any asphalt resurfacing or local street reconstruction projects slated at this time. Fortunately, the city has gotten some community development block grant funding in the last couple of years to do some street reconstruction projects. The city's gotten $150,000 per year for those streets. Last year we did Roxana from Norton to Semrau. This year we'll be doing Almond from Semrau to Stevens. But again, there's not a lot of money there to provide a match for the project. Moving into water and sewer projects that we're looking forward to in the future. The city has been successful in getting, or in the process actually, of getting a drinking water revolving fund loan that will address several of the aging water mains here in the city. Most of those mains that we're replacing were put in the 1920s, 1930s. So we'll be looking to replace those mains as part of the drinking water revolving fund loan. It's a $20 million loan that we're looking to get. It's a low interest loan, 1.5% to 2% interest on that loan, paid over a 20-year period. The city did get out of that $20 million, $1.6 million in principal forgiveness and grant funding on that. That program will also address some of those mains. There are several lead water services serving homes along those streets. Those will also be addressed as part of the DWRF project. In addition to that, the city's also looking at doing a separate lead water service replacement program and trying to get ahead of the game, as Eagle has mandated what used to be the MDEQ, now Eagle, Department of Environmental Quality, is now requiring that all lead water services have to be replaced at the city's cost from the water main to at least 18 inches inside the home. Our records show that the city had 1,300, a little over 1,300 lead water services in the system that are known. We have to date replaced over 200 of those in the last couple of years. We have till the year 2041 to replace those. Eagle recommends that 5% of those services be replaced each year. So we're trying to get ahead of the game and try to get those replaced as soon as possible. As part of the road projects along 9 Mile that are proposed, we're also going to be replacing the water main prior to doing the road reconstruction project. The first phase of that will be starting here later this winter, again from the western city limits to Gratiot. That'll come out of the water and sewer fund. As far as sanitary sewer projects, we're currently in the process of doing a citywide sanitary sewer cleaning and televising program. We've divided the city into 5 districts. We've completed 1 district to date, and we've started working in the 2nd district here a few weeks ago. Based upon the results of that, whatever deficiencies we find within the sewer system, we're going to put out to bid a project for open cut repairs, sewer lining, sewer rehabilitation projects that may need to be done to address any defective sewer. We're in the process of next week putting out the bids for that rehab work for District Number 1. Based on a capital improvement program, we show that there's going to be sewer rehabilitation done every year to address that. The sewer cleaning and televising program would be expected to be completed in the 23-24 year, and then it's recommended by the state, by Eagle, that sewers are cleaned and televised and investigated roughly every 5 years to make sure you're keeping up with it and maintaining the sewer system. So we've added that into the capital improvement program. And then finally, we also have costs built in there for storm sewer rehab and rehabilitation. We did do some of that in 2020 and early last year. We don't have anything planned for this current budget year, but that's something that we may have in the future as well to address. So I know administration just basically wanted me to give kind of a brief overview of the capital improvement plan that we've provided and for your information. If you have any questions on it, I'd be happy to answer those.
Do any commissioners have any questions for Mr. Kern?
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I have one question on the lead water service replacement program. I think you said it was running through 2041 is the mandate,
That's correct.
but in the budget here, the last year has $0 funded. I'm just curious, why is that?
Right now, the plan is to do potentially up to $1 million per year of lead water service replacements. If the city were to do $1 million per year, all 1,300 would be addressed after the 5th year in this plan. So we would be well ahead of the game if that's how the city chooses to proceed.
Okay, thank you. Great.
That makes me feel a little bit better considering I was just told I have a lead water line in my house.
You're year
Probably
5,
been-
John.
Probably been poisoning myself for the last 32 years.
Any other questions for Mr. Kern?
What was the streets that you said you were getting ready to do? I heard you say,
So this year, 9 Mile from the western city limits, basically at Beechwood Street to Gratiot, will be completely reconstructed. That'll probably start, I'm gonna guess right after 4th of July. And then with CDBG funding, or partially with CDBG funding, the reconstruction of Almond Street from Semra to Stevens, that's just one block. And then in addition to that, there'll be concrete pavement repair work going on basically in the area between Topher and 9 Mile and roughly Gratiot East.
Any other questions for Mr. Kern?
I have one, and I might be the only one that doesn't know, but on the sanitary sewer cleaning and televising program, what areas are the districts? Like, what is District 1 and 2?
District 1 that was completed is everything west of Gratiot, north of Topher. District 2 would complete the remainder west of Gratiot down to 8 Mile, and then it's starting to work east of Gratiot between 8 Mile and Topher. The 5 districts have been divided. The division of that's not real easy to explain, but it's divided based on the footage of pipe. So each district has the same footage of pipe to address.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Kern.
No problem.
Appreciate the time.
Yep.
Move on to new business item C. Commissioners had an opportunity to review the proposed schedule for the remainder of 2022 through January of 2023. Do any commissioners have any proposed changes or recommendations for the schedule, the Planning Commission schedule through January of 2023? Everyone is good? No? Good. Is the commissioner prepared to make a motion to approve the Planning Commission schedule through January of 2023 as it's presented in the Planning Commission packet for this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
We have motion, do we have support?
I'll second it.
We got motion by Vice Chair DeHaan and support from Commissioner Lalonde. Are there any other comments, questions, or concerns? Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. DeHaan?
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Ms. Naylor? Ms. Ford?
yes,
Chairman Palazzolo?
Yes. Move on to new business. Item D. Who would actually like to begin this discussion? Now, if I recall correctly, Ms. Holman, one of the, oh wait, which item? No, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong item. I'm on item D. My apologies. I'll get to that in a second. Joint meetings. We have a proposed meeting for February 8th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Do any commissioners have any questions about that joint meeting?
Yeah, it's going to be a face-to-face meeting or
Yes,
virtual? Okay,
face-to-face.
all right.
Is the time set? Is it 6 o'clock? Is that set?
I believe we could ask for a different time.
I just know I'll probably be up against it to get there at 6, whether it's
Yes,
in
Mr.
person or not.
Yeah.
I mean,
Councilmember Monaco wanted to address the.
Oh, yep,
Sure.
please go ahead.
A different time could be proposed, for sure.
yeah, even half an hour would, 6:30, 6 is just gonna be too tight that
Okay.
day.
Yeah, whatever you guys vote, we'll probably be able to do, I think.
Okay.
can I ask a question?
Yes.
Why are we doing the face-to-face meeting, not the Zoom? Only reason I say that is because of all the increase in what's been going on with the COVID. Even in my family, my husband just had it last week. And I mean, I'm straight, I got tested, I'm not positive or anything like that. But because of that, seems like we should go back to just until everything is calmed down.
What do you want to like to? Yes, sir. Mr. Albright.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to address that concern. The city, during the course of 2021, the city council passed an emergency resolution last March, and they were able to do that because of legislation that had been enacted by Lansing. The Open Meetings Act does not allow meetings to be conducted via Zoom now that that emergency resolution has expired. It expired on December 31st of 2021. And the Michigan legislature has not enacted any additional legislation to provide for any exceptions to the Open Meetings Act. So that is the reason why we are meeting here in the council chambers this evening, and will continue to do so unless the legislature allows an exception to the Open Meetings Act and the city council actually passes some type of resolution adopting that exception.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Well, if somebody is sick, then they just won't come, right?
Yes.
Existing condition or something.
Right. Is a 6:30? Is the commissioner prepared to make a motion to recommend the joint meeting between City Council and the Planning Commission for February 8th, 2022 at 6:30 PM?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Broll, second by Commissioner Lalonde. Are there any other final comments, questions, or concerns? Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Ms. Naylor? Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. DeHunt?
Miss you all. I won't be able to make it, but yes.
Chairman Palazzolo?
Yes. All right, now we on to new business, item E. Now we're on the bylaws, and this is actually where I was going to ask Ms. Holman. If I recall, in part, this is part of a process that we're asking all boards and commissions to do, which stems from an alignment with the redevelopment ready community principles from the MEDC. Is that, am I wrong about that?
As it really, yes, you're not wrong.
Okay.
Sorry. No, you are correct.
Okay.
The development-related boards and commissions, so that would be the Planning Commission, the ZBA, and the DDA, those have the RRC requirements. However, administration has been, is actually working on bylaws. We found many of the boards and commissions do not have bylaws or have very outdated bylaws. So all of the boards and commissions are working on putting together and/or updating their bylaws. We also, administration has put together a brand-new handbook. It's very user-friendly for any and all board and commission members, as well as some introductory information that'll be presented within the next month or two to each of the board and commissions. So I'm trying to get everybody really operating under the same guidelines and providing some information for brand new members.
Excellent. At this point, are there any recommendations from MEDC or the RRC program for, or areas of the bylaws that we need to take a particular look at or pay attention to? Or is it just an initiation of the discussion?
Actually, Ms. Hall has incorporated
Okay.
those requirements. She works not only with our city and RRC, but some of her other clients. So she's very, very familiar with both our liaison and the requirements of the RRC.
Okay.
So you guys have actually some of the, maybe the only
Okay.
relatively clean set of bylaws.
Okay. All right. So we need to review the comments that were provided by Ms. Hall earlier today and that you printed out for us, correct?
Yes,
Okay. All right. Thank you.
thank you.
I know we just provided this to you today, so I don't think you had an opportunity to review these comments from Ms. Haw prior to the meeting. But if you would like to take a moment to quickly look at them.
Mr. Chair, would this be something maybe we should table this discussion until Laura's presence?
We can certainly do that. Or I can ask this, if there are specific recommendations for the bylaws that people know now that you would like to discuss, we can do that and then hold off on the planner's comments until the next meeting.
If I'm not mistaken, the only discussion that we had was moving around new business and old business, that, you know, that chestnut that comes up every so often.
Yes.
I think that would be and that would be an order of business, I believe.
Oh, yep, that is
Article-
correct. That is Article 6. That is page 3. Article 6, Section 1.
So that would be moving G in front of E. Is that, am I correct there?
Moving
Swapping those.
E after G.
E after G.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if any of the members also have suggestions before the next meeting, if they could share them with the building department, and we can get those to Ms. Haw to incorporate into the discussion
Okay.
for when this is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Shall we take an opportunity to look at it ourselves? We can send comments on?
Yeah, on the terms, we're currently staggered, right? I feel like that conversation has come up. I don't remember, Cardy, was that what city council, or was that?
Sure, yeah, we've discussed a lot of the board and commission terms, and right now, all of your terms are not as staggered as they originally were when things started. I think, if I looked back correctly, we had appointed some people for 3 years instead of 5 years, and I think now that has created less staggering. So I think everybody on the commission expires in either 1 year or another year. So there's only like 2 years where everybody expires as opposed to staggered across 5 years. I think at this point, if city council doesn't vote to do anything about it, I think it's just left as is.
Okay, thank you.
Any other immediate comments, questions, or concerns?
Well, I do have one.
Okay.
The city of Eastpointe sponsored a couple of us to go to city planner meetings earlier this year, and one of the things that came up when we were talking about is conflict of interest. And the way the presenter brought up the issue of conflict of interest is that in a real matter-of-fact way, that in the bylaws, there should be some type of language stating, hey, if, you know, what is the definition of what could be a conflict of interest? And the way they put it was like, if you have a house and you are on a corner and that, you know, there's a project that's gonna be a couple 100 feet away, you probably should, you know, abstain from getting into that discussion because you have personal interests versus being a commissioner. So I think we need to have a discussion of what that is and add that type of language into the bylaws.
Good point.
That's actually happened on this board when Gianni House was going in, because I live right across the street. And I remember that. And I had said so much, or asked if it would be.
Right
That was
on.
a good class, that was a good point.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other immediate comments, questions, or concerns? Otherwise, is a commissioner prepared to make a motion to table discussion and any further action on the bylaws until the February 2022 Planning Commission meeting?
I'll make that.
Second.
Okay.
I was going to say, I thought I heard Commissioner Broll first, seconded by Vice Chair DeHaan. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Mr. DeHaan?
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Ms. Naylor?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Chairman Palazzolo?
Yes. Go on to new business, new item F, which is the election of officers. Do we have a nomination for Chair of the Planning Commission?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Tim Palazzolo for Chairman of the Planning Commission.
Do we have a second?
Support.
Second that.
Okay.
I know we was having
I willingly accept your torture. We have a motion by Vice Chair DeHaan and support by Secretary Yalinsky, I think.
Yes.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. DeHaan?
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Ms. Naylor?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Chairman Palazzolo, do you accept?
I accept. Do we have a nomination for Vice Chair of the Planning Commission?
I'll nominate Mr. DeHaan.
Do we?
Support?
That was quick.
Motion by
I'll support that.
Commissioner, oh, we got Commissioner Broll with the motion and, or with the nomination, and Secretary Yalinsky with the support.
Okay.
Vice Chair DeHaan, do you accept
Yes.
furthering your service as Vice Chair?
Yes.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Ms. Naylor?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. DeHaan, you accept?
Yes.
And Chairman Palazzolo?
Yes. Do we have a nomination for Secretary of the Planning Commission?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Sheila Ulinski for secretary.
Do we have a second?
Support.
We have a nomination from Vice Chair DeHaan and support from Commissioner Naylor. Secretary Yalinsky, do you accept
I accept.
the continuation of your service as Secretary? Then Secretary, please call the roll for yourself.
Mr. DeHaan?
Absolutely.
And Ms. Naylor?
Yes.
Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
I accept. And Chairman Palazzolo?
Yes.
It's been an honor being nominated.
Truly, truly an honor. We move on to unfinished business. Item A, unfortunately, Ms. Ha is out sick tonight. Is a commissioner prepared to make a motion to table presentation of the 9-mile strategic corridor plan and recommend that the presentation take place at the next joint session of the Planning Commission and the City Council?
I'll make that motion.
And do we have support?
Ms. Ford.
Oh, we have a motion by Vice Chair DeHaan and support from Commissioner Ford. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. DeHaan?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Ms. Naylor?
Yes.
Chairman Palazzolo?
Yes. Move on to unfinished business, item B. Mr. Albright, would you care to review the changes?
Yes, I'd be happy to, Mr. Chairman. Do all of the commissioners, everyone receive a copy of the proposed changes to the privacy fence ordinance sections of the city's ordinances?
Yes.
Okay, so for members of the public, anyone watching the meeting, under section 50-161, and this is following up from the last meeting, under section or subsection C3, the sentence begins, all fences on corner lots shall only be non-privacy type fences, comma, except that on city blocks that do not have houses fronting the street. That sentence, or that language rather, will be removed, and the sentence will begin, a privacy fence may be erected along a side street property line which is in compliance with all provisions of this section regarding privacy fences. And then moving down to section E1, language will be added to this section, and the proposed language will read, privacy fences shall only be permitted in the side and rear yard along the property line and also along a side street property line on corner lots, period. So those are the proposed sections. It would address the comments made by the resident, Mr. Christmas, who happens to live on a corner lot and has a privacy fence. And this privacy fence amendment would, if approved by the Planning Commission this evening, would then go before the City Council for a first and second reading.
Do any commissioners have any questions for Mr. Albright?
I have a couple of questions. So the privacy fence goes to the property line, so essentially it'd be a few inches off the sidewalk, correct?
Wherever the property line would be, yes.
Okay, because I know that he had made mention, Mr. Christmas had made mention about being able to put wherever, and I actually drove past that house, and I saw his his fence that apparently is causing all this problem. So it seems to me that that fence would have to be essentially ripped out and pulled to the property line.
No, I don't believe so. I believe the property line, and Dennis can correct me on that, but I believe the property line runs along, or is right within there. I believe the fence, if this language was planning commission and ultimately approved by the city council, then I believe his fence would then be in compliance with the city's ordinances.
All right, so essentially where the fence was put up illegally, and apparently, I'm sure that it had to have been known that it was put up illegally, but we're gonna give them a pardon essentially by doing this? When Councilwoman Lucido came up, or spoke during the public hearing, and she had made mention about the fence lines and all that, and she's got friends that want to put fences up, or she's had residents go to her that want to put fences up. They haven't put them up yet, but I don't have a problem with the fence line, but it just seems, it's like we're letting people have a pass for breaking the ordinance, and I just seems, I'm a little disheartened by that. I have no problem with the fencing ordinance, but anybody that's put something up illegally, we're just now suddenly saying, it's okay, never mind. And I don't think that's fair to everybody that did it the right way. So that's my commentary, sorry.
Do any other commissioners have any questions for Mr. Albright?
I think I do. I'm trying to think, do we, okay, the way I interpret item number 3 is that all fences on corner lots shall be only non-privacy type fences, except for on city blocks that do not have houses fronting the street. So it's saying it still would be a non-privacy type fence if a house does not, it does front the street. So is that issue addressed in the privacy fence adjustment? I don't think I'm piecing that together quite right, but I feel like there's something missing there.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Can't follow.
Yeah, I might be misinterpreting this rule. Okay, if you look at item 3, it says all fences on corner lots shall be non-privacy type fences, except on city blocks that do not have houses fronting the street. So if a house fronts the street, then you can have a privacy type fence.
This language just gets rid of all that altogether.
Yeah.
Okay, but and maybe this is where I'm just forgetting, did we as a body say we don't want that? Or, I mean, why is that the decision? Why are we getting rid of that rule?
This was the request to allow a privacy fence on a corner lot regardless if there are houses fronting it or not.
So, okay, so that, I guess, yeah, maybe that's a better way for me to phrase the question. So it doesn't really matter if there's a house fronting it or not, we'll change the rule carte blanche.
Right, what would happen previously, and this just came up in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals, I believe, back in either the September or October meeting, there was a family that had a similar situation to what Mr. Christmas had, and I'm just using his because the gentleman spoke this evening, and they were required to obtain a variance, and the Zoning Board of Appeals granted them the variance. And there were houses on, I believe, on that side street that fronted that street, so that they were required then to seek a variance. Otherwise, they would not have been able to have privacy fence on their corner lot.
Gotcha, okay.
Did that resident have the fence put up before they got the variance, or did they go before the ZBA for the variance first, and then?
Mr. DeHunt, I don't remember offhand, it may have been up already. Yeah, I believe it had already been erected. The fence had been. I don't know whether it was by that family that came before the Zoning Board of Appeals, or whether the previous homeowners had erected the fence.
They did have a permit, though. They just, the contractor put that fence up, and they didn't even know.
So the contractor did it?
That's what I'm.
Right.
So if the contractor
know.
did it, he would have had a pull permit
Right, they did pull permits, the contractor never told them, they're not the contractor pulled the permit, so they were putting up the fence, it got approved. They ended up putting the privacy fence in, the homeowners did not know that it wasn't allowed till after it got cited a couple months later.
Oh, so it did get-
But we approved it at City Hall, and you have to have a rendering.
Yeah, well, they did, I wasn't here at that time, but the paperwork just said it was installing a fence. It wasn't dictated as a cyclone fence, it wasn't dictated as a privacy fence, it just said fencing. So that's that slipped through the cracks, I guess.
So that's why they were able to get a variance on that. And weren't we discussing changing this because we were trying to save people the cost of applying for the variance?
Yes.
Well, and also, you're basically, people on a corner lot you're telling them they can't have the same privilege that as their next door neighbor has. And going to other municipalities in the whole area have changed or adopted or have never had this, existing ordinance. So we're just trying to, this is a family town, trying to make everybody happy and still keep everything in compliance. They still have to have proper setbacks, sight of vision, all that still applies, regardless if it's a cyclone fence or a privacy fence. They still all have to do the same things. They're just now allowing it, and a lot of points. I don't know if anybody saw or tuned into the last ZBA meeting, where that was approved, or a couple ones ago, whatever it was. But a lot of key points were, people, young children, a safety issue as well. The last one.
Security.
Security. And again, where, your next door neighbor is secure, why can't you be secure? And especially, you're on a high traffic area, people are just peeking in all the time,
I hear you.
But I believe how Mr. Ibart's got this written is, would be a great asset to the city of Eastpointe. We can continue to, dot the i's and cross the t's, and hopefully we'll never have a mix-up again.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Is a commissioner prepared to make a motion to recommend approval of the amendment to section 50-161 of the Eastpointe zoning ordinance as presented by the city attorney?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair DeHunt and second from Commissioner Ford. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. DeHunt?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Ms. Naylor?
Yes.
Chairman Palazzolo?
Yes. We move on to the second hearing of the public. If you would like to participate in the second hearing of the public, please make yourself known and request to be heard. Wait to be called. When you are called, you will have 3 minutes to speak. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Seeing none, we will close the second hearing of the public, and we will move on to commissioner comments. Mr. Szymanski, do you have any comments for us?
Questions again. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all,
Oh, shucks, thanks.
Mr. Albright?
It's just good to see everyone in person. I'm glad everyone is healthy, and welcome back.
Ms. Holman?
Just to update you that the letters requested at the last meeting regarding the road lighting are going out on Monday. And then, Nancy's team will be given it about 30 days and start enforcing. We've already started looking at different, so there's road lighting, and there's also neon lighting. I was confused, but Nancy has his code enforcement work on what they are
Yes, yes, there is, and we're getting creative with it now.
Ms. Wallen?
Thank you, no, I just appreciate all of you showing up. I think it is a scary time, so I appreciate your participation and continuing to show up and be here. Appreciate it.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Thanks, Chairman, and congrats on being chairman again, and Vice Chairman DeHunt, Secretary Ulinski. And for anyone, I guess, on the live stream, in case you didn't hear that, we're going to start enforcing the rope lighting ordinance for anyone, if there is anyone listening on YouTube or on the cable channels right now. And if I do say so, I think we've got a couple exciting things going on in the city. Of course, Mr. Kern came here from AEW, and we talked about 9 Mile. Today, we talked about that on Tuesday, also at our city council meeting. And then we also talked about the traffic signals. And I don't know how familiar everyone is on the commission. I certainly haven't been as familiar with traffic signals until the last couple months. But most of them are what are called box span configuration. And when you see the cables holding up the lights, that's what that is. And then you've probably all seen the mast arms, the big steel poles holding up the lights, which are a lot classier. City Council voted to use those at 9 Mile and Kelly. The Stevens and Topher intersections will still use the box span, but we voted to do mast arms on 9 Mile at Kelly. And then also on Tuesday, we picked a firm to do a city manager search. Of course, as you all know, Ms. Doom has retired. And so we'll be starting a search with a company called Amy Cell. We'll be having a meeting with them just before our next council meeting on the 18th. So tune in if you're interested to hear about that conversation. We'll review like the marketing materials and such that we've put out in the past and just what we'd like to see in a manager. And then we'll get that started. So very early on, it's expected to take a few months. So, you know, reach out to City Council whenever throughout the process. And Happy New Year. And that's all I got.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ford?
I do have something. I just need to know, I guess, where to direct me, because when I bring this up, I'm not exactly sure. But my neighbor's been coming to me saying that the Eastland Mall over there, they're getting ready to tear it down, and they're getting ready to build some factories that's supposed to emit a lot of problems, a lot of odor and chemicals that's going to be coming from those places. And they all asking me, what do we need to do? I said, I don't know. I'm going to ask to try to see if it's something we should do, because it's actually Harper Woods. That's the city. I know it's not our city, but it's going to be, there's supposed to be 3 factories. So it's going to be blowing over on our side of the street. And from what I understand, my neighbor said Harper Woods saying they putting trees down, but trees take a long time to grow in order to stop that. So whom do I see to address this? Okay.
Commissioner Ford, is there anything else?
And that's it.
Commissioner Lalonde?
Just want to say, it's nice to see everybody again, and it's nice to meet the 2 new commissioners. We've only met on television.
You seen you on Zoom.
That's all I got.
Not the same.
Commissioner Naylor?
Happy New Year, and I pray everyone is safe, family members safe. No other comments?
Commissioner Broll?
I was happy to see the capital improvement program worksheet that we have. I don't recall ever seeing that in our packets before, so really interesting information there. And then just regarding the meeting, sorry, I was late. You know, it's kind of funny. I looked at the packet and I saw Zoom on the front, and I just reacted the wrong way, and I'm like, oh, we're Zooming again, you know, especially with COVID. So thanks for the call, Mr. Palazzolo, and it's great to see all you again. And yeah, thank you.
Secretary Ulinski?
Oh, just Happy New Year. Great to see everybody. Look forward to another fruitful year with you, all of you.
Vice Chair DeHunt?
Ms. Holman put these sheets out, so if everybody could fill them out and make sure that she gets it. Well, I'm gonna set them right here so she can pick them up when everyone's done with them.
That's actually, that's all private, the only thing that's published on the website would be your names and your email addresses. But this is again, so that we don't, this would be for the committee members and the council liaisons and the staff liaisons for each of the boards. It will not be published.
So I thank you. In reference to the rope lighting, pay your people some overtime, have them work at night. You'll see the real malefactors. Have them bring sunglasses even in the pitch dark because it gets very bright in some sections. When this was first brought up a while back, I do believe we had somebody say, well, I can't have a code enforcement person go out at nighttime.
I'll volunteer.
Yes. I'll ride shotgun with Sheila. Give us a little book. We'll write people up. So thank you for taking care of that. So I had COVID at Christmas, and it sucked. 2.5 weeks, kicked my butt, had my shots, had the breakthrough. So I'm not going to get into somebody's psyche about whether masks and shots work, because that's between you and your maker.
Obviously.
But I'm here to tell you that had I not had shots, Lord knows what would have happened, because I have COPD. So answer to yourself, but think wisely. That's it.
Amen.
And it's good to see all of you. We haven't been together in some time, and the new commissioners, we've never had an opportunity to see each other face to face, so it's good to see you. Everyone, I hope you have a safe and happy new year. And, we embark on yet another grand adventure. I'm sure we'll have many twists and turns, but we'll have fun together. So it's good to be back with everyone. We move on to the training for this evening. However, yet again, our city planner is not available tonight. So is a commissioner prepared to make a motion to table the training and recommend that the training take place at the next joint planning commission city council meeting?
As I won't be here, I'll make that motion.
All right, and
You
do we
want
have a second?
training- I'm sorry, you want the training at the joint?
Yep.
Okay.
It's just a discussion of training, right, not actual training.
Yeah.
And we have a second. I'm sorry, did we have a second?
Second. Sorry.
Oh, okay. We have a motion by Vice Chair DeHunt and second by Commissioner Ford. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. DeHunt?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde? Yes. Ms. Julinski, yes. Ms. Naylor? Chairman Palazzolo?
Yes. And finally, is the commissioner prepared to make a motion to adjourn at 8:25 PM?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Vice Chair DeHunt and again supported by Commissioner Ford. Secretary, please call the roll.
Supported by.
That was me.
Yep. Motion by Vice Chair DeHunt, support from Commissioner Ford.
No.
Sheila supported it.
Oh, I heard a voice down there. I
Commissioner
swore it was-
Ford thirded it.
Oh, sorry.
Let's just go. Let's go. Doesn't matter. Somebody.
Mr. DeHunt?
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Ms. Ford? Yes. Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde? Ms. Naylor? Chairman Palazzolo?
Yes. Thank you.
All right, now you're gonna say all women sound alike. We're gonna
Right?
we're gonna get them about that.
Yeah, I love your class.
You're smart.